Okay, alright guys, today we're going to be doing compositions of functions. So it's going to look like this right here, where you're going to have f, and careful because this is not a dot. What we did last Thursday, we had f times g, and this was a colored in dot. That meant we were multiplying, excuse me. Today we're going to have an open circle, okay? So watch out, because that's where we're going to do composition, not exactly the same as what we did on Thursday. So watch out for that, especially for our test. We're having a test this Friday, so heads up. All right, we're going to start with our example function notation. When we see a number inside the parentheses like this, and they give us a function labeled f of x, remember this left side is just a label, we're going to go into the equation and we're going to substitute in place of x a 4. Okay, then we do the math. 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 plus 3 is 11. Okay. Now we're following the same type of procedure here, where when we have this open circle, think of it like, I think it actually is easier to think of it like this right here, where it says f of g of x, where g of x is inside the parentheses of f. Okay, so kind of like this, where they had inside the parentheses they had a 4. Now when we have f and the open circle g, we're going to look at the f function and we're going to substitute in, like we did in this function, in place of x, the whole g function. So this is what I mean. Let's look at our first example. Again, I like how it looks like this first. I think that makes more sense. So in our first example, it's written f, and then I'm not sure what that, I guess just f composite of g. I'm not sure how to say it. But it means that you're going to look at the f function, and if this would write, that'd be great. And you're going to, in place of wherever x is, you're going to plug in the g function. Okay. So I like how they kind of nested in here. These mean the same thing, so just heads up. They mean the same thing, so when you see it on the test, but I just like how it looks better this way. Even though I apologize, I'm trying to write the best I can with my stencil here. It's not going great. Okay, so that means I'm going to look at the f function, and I'm going to copy it again, but I'm not going to put x. In place of x, I'm going to put parentheses. And then inside of those parentheses, just like we have here in our setup, I'm going to substitute in g, the g function. So I'm going to put x plus 2. That's going to go inside. So if f is first, you start with the f function, and if g is second, the g function goes inside the f function. Okay? So the g function would go inside the f function. And it makes more sense when it's written like this, and I'm going to rewrite it. Hopefully it looks a little bit better. F of g of x. Okay. All right. Thank you. And then all you have to do there is, if you have a number outside in front of the parentheses, then we're going to distribute. So you're going to multiply 2 times x and 2 times 2. And we are done. So you set up the expression correctly, and then we multiply or simplify as best as we can. In this case, it was multiplication because it was 2x, or 2 touching x, which is multiplication. So when we sub in that x plus 2, substitute in place of x, it's still multiplication. And we have 2 terms, so it's called distributing, right? Now check this out. Now we're going to do the second example, where the g comes first and then the f. Again, I'm going to rewrite it so we can see how the nesting works there. We're going to have f, excuse me, not f, g. We're going to start with the g function, right? And inside the g function, we're going to substitute in the f of x, or the f function, okay? So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to look at the g function now, and wherever x is, I'm going to put parentheses. Then I'm going to put plus 2, right? Because our function over here, the g function, We only look at the right side, and it has x plus 2, so parentheses plus 2. Wherever I had my x originally, now I have my parentheses, and now I'm going to substitute f in place of those parentheses. Now, my expression here looks like 2x plus 2. And there's no multiplication, there's nothing I can combine, so that's pretty much done. In reality, since it's addition, I don't need parentheses, so that's my answer, 2x plus 2. Alright, let's look at the next one. So again, what we are doing is we're starting, they give us the first letter is the function that we're starting with, and then the second letter is the second function that's going to be substituted into the first function. So let's start doing this one right here. We're going to do G, and we're going to substitute it. You're going to substitute H inside of our G function. And I'm going to write it, I like writing it both ways, so I'm going to write it this way, which means we're going to look at the G function, and inside the G function is going to go the H function. It just makes more sense in my head, so I'm hoping that helps you. So again, start with the G function, that's x minus 3, so parentheses minus 3, right? Because we're going to substitute in place of that x, the G function. Now I get the G function, it goes in there, x squared. Okay. Now x squared and minus 3, they're not like terms, they don't combine, and since it's subtraction, and the subtraction is behind the parentheses, I can actually take off those parentheses, I don't need them. And that's it. So the key thing here is how to set it up. Alright, now let's do the second part of this. Now we're going to do h of g of x. So I'm going to put h with the little circle of g of x. And then I like writing it how it looks this way. So I'm going to start with the h function, and inside the h function is going to go the g function. So let's start. The h function is x squared. So I don't put x, right? I put parentheses. Parentheses, and I'm going to leave enough space so I can substitute in the g function parentheses squared, because the h is parentheses squared, okay? Then inside those parentheses is going to go the g function. Well, the g function is x minus 3, so x minus 3. Now, because we have this squared outside, this actually can be expanded and then simplify where we combine like terms. So we have that x squared, x minus 3 squared, so I'm going to have to write it twice, because remember that's what it means. When we have something to a power of 2, then we're going to get whatever's inside, and that's going to multiply by itself twice. Obviously, if it was just a single number, it would be a lot easier, but it's a binomial. So a binomial squared means x minus 3 times x minus 3, and we're going to do FOIL, or I like to do the rainbow method. So x times x is going to give me x squared, then x times negative 3, negative 3x, and then I move on to this, negative 3 times x, negative 3x, and then negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Okay, this is not letting me write very well. Sorry, guys. Positive 9. And then always the middle two terms will combine. So my answer here, I'm going to write it over here, is x squared. Negative 3 and negative 3 together will give me negative 6. And that plus 9 has nothing to combine, so it just bring it down. Okay. So again, the same math that we've done in Algebra 1, but they give it to us a little bit different how to start it off, but everything else is the same, so hopefully that's not an issue that we'll run into, because we already did FOIL and multiplying binomials in Algebra 1. Let's do some more examples. Hopefully we're starting to get it a little bit more now. Alright, so we're going to do F and H. So we're going to, I'm just like rewriting it, f, and inside the f function, we're going to have the h function. So I start with the f function because that one's first. So x plus 2. So I'm not going to put x, I'm just going to put, in place of x, parentheses. Then inside the parentheses, I'm going to substitute in 2x squared minus 3, the h function. Okay. Then we're going to see if we can combine anything. Well, this is x squared minus 3 plus 2, and since it's a plus 2 outside, it's not multiplication, so I don't have to worry about distributing or anything. I can actually take off the parentheses. And then once you take off the parentheses, you can easily see you just have negative 3 plus 2, and these two will simplify to give me 2x squared, and negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Okay, hopefully we are good with our positive and negative numbers. Alright, and that's that part. Now let's do it the other way around. Now we have h first, then the f with the little open circle. So we're going to start with the h function, and inside the h function, we're going to substitute in the f function, and then we're going to do the math. So we're going to start with 2, and then it's 2x squared up here, 2x squared, so parentheses squared, minus 3, and I'm leaving enough space so I can substitute in the f function, x plus 2. Alright, this one is going to require a good amount of work because I'm squaring a binomial, right? There's two terms in here. And then I'm going to multiply by 2 or distribute a 2, and then I'm going to subtract a 3. So make sure you're following order of operation. Okay? So I'm going to do 2 and leave the 2 outside, and I'm going to actually put some brackets here so I can differentiate that it's out there so you guys can see it. I'm going to focus on this in here. So x plus 2 is being squared, so times itself twice. Okay, and then we'll focus on that minus 3 till the very end, but I don't want to leave it out because I don't want to forget that it's there, okay? All right, I'm just trying to color coordinate there. All right, so I'm going to focus in here inside. I'm going to do the rainbow method. X times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. Then 2 times x is 2x, and then 2 times 2 is 4. The middle two terms will combine to give me 4x, so that's going to be x squared plus 4x plus 4. And that's what I have in here, but I still have that 2 in the front, and I still have that minus 3 in the back. And then I put brackets just so we can differentiate between the parentheses that we have. Alright, I'm going to move this down a little bit for more space. Okay, but I still have that 2 in front, and that's being multiplied because it's touching my parentheses. And then I have that minus 3 in the back. Well, that's subtraction. Multiplication comes before subtraction. So I'm going to do 2. I'm going to distribute that 2 into the x squared, then to the 4. So that's going to be 2 times 4 is 8, and it has an x. And then times the last 4, which is just 8. Now that I've distributed, I actually don't need the parentheses anymore or brackets. So I'm going to move, I'm just not going to write those anymore. And I'm going to bring down that minus 3. Well, when I bring down that minus 3, I see that these two are like terms, just regular numbers, and they'll combine. And this is my answer. 2x squared plus 8x plus 5. Okay. So that was a lot of steps. Some will take a lot of work and some will not. Some will just set up and take off parentheses. Some you'll have to FOIL, distribute, and so on. Let's do another example. Alright, we're starting with the f function. Then we're going to substitute it in place of, we're going to substitute the g function inside the f function. Okay? So we're going to start f function, which is x squared plus 2x. Well, watch out because I actually have 2 x's. So I'm going to have 2 parentheses. I have x squared, so parentheses squared, plus 2x, so plus 2 parentheses. So if you have 2 x's, you have to substitute into both. And then the g function is going to go in there. So we put x minus 9 and x minus 9. Okay, let's start with the binomial here. I have to write that twice, right? Because it's being squared. That means multiply by itself twice. And then that plus 2x minus 9, I'm going to leave that in the back and we'll focus on that a little bit later. Let's do the FOIL first, right? Anything with the exponent, let's do that first and we follow the operation. We're going to multiply x times x squared, x times negative 9, negative 9x. Then move on to this negative 9 times this x, negative 9x. Negative 9 times negative 9 is positive 81. Wow, I was about to put 18. Sorry. These two will combine and I will have x squared minus 18x because they're both negatives. And then 81. Okay, so that takes care of this first part, multiplying the binomials. Then I'm going to move down the plus 2 that we have, and then the x minus 9. Alright, the next step in our order of operation would be multiplication before we can add or subtract. And that's going to be this 2 right here. We're going to be able to distribute that 2 inside the parentheses. So that's 2 times x, and then 2 times negative 9 is negative 18. Okay. Now I'm going to bring down the front here and I'm going to start looking for anything that I can combine. So I'm looking for like terms. So I'm looking, is there another x squared? No. Is there x's? Yes. This one has a negative 18x and this is a 2x. Both of those are like terms, so those will combine. And then I have a regular number, 81 here, and negative 18. So those will combine. So then, taking up a lot of space. So then my answer is x squared. There's no other x squared, so you just bring it down. Negative 18x plus 2x. They're different signs, so we subtract and keep the sign of the 18 because the 18 is bigger than 2 and 18 is negative. Then bring down the 81. We'll combine the 81 with the 18. So we're going to subtract 18 from 81. So 3, so 63. And positive because 81 is positive and it's bigger than 18. Alright, that's our answer. Let's go to the next one. Now we're going to start with the g function. And in the g function, we're going to put the f function. So I actually can't see it. So let me zoom out a little bit so I can see the function and also now. So we're starting with the g function. Inside the g function is going to be the f function. And then I'm going to color coordinate because I like that. So it's going to be x minus 9 is our g function. So x minus 9. Parentheses minus 9 because that's where we're substituting. And we're substituting the f function, x squared plus 2x in the x position of the g function. Alright, and then here we're just subtracting x squared plus 2x and then minus 9. And since this minus is after the parentheses, you actually don't need parentheses anymore, just for our substitution, so we know where it goes. Once you take them off, you can see that the 2 and the 9 will combine, because they're just regular numbers, and then 2 minus 9 is negative 7. Okay? Let's go on to the next example. We're starting with the f function. In the f function, we're going to substitute in a g function. So f function is red, 5x plus 4, so 5 parentheses plus 4. And the g function is going to be substituted in place of x, so 3 minus x. Then we have to do the math. We have parentheses here, so we're going to distribute that 5 into the parentheses, so 15. And then 5 times negative x, negative 5x, right? Then that 4 is not in the parentheses, so just bring it down. And then you can see that 15 and 4 will combine because those are just regular numbers. And my answer is negative 5x. 15, plus 4, not minus. 15 plus 4 is 19. Okay. All right. Next example. Now we're starting with the g function. And in the g function, we're going to sub in the x function. So my g function is, I'm going to write it over here, down here, is 3 minus x, so 3 minus parentheses. And then my red function or f function is 5x plus 4, and that's what's going to go in the parentheses. Now in this one, I have a minus in the front, so I'm going to put a little 1, and I'm going to distribute a negative 1. So that's going to change that to negative 1 times negative 5. Sorry. Negative 1 times negative 5 is going to be, positive 5 is going to be a negative 5x. Negative 1 times 4 is going to be a negative 4. So that way I can take off the parentheses so I can remember that I'm subtracting, and I don't have to worry about which is the sign anymore. I just combine like terms and we're done. So careful with those minus. I like to distribute a negative 1 and then just combine like terms, which would be the 3 and the negative 4. So 3 minus 4 would be negative 1. So my answer is negative 5x minus 1. Alright, hopefully this is starting to make more sense. I think this is our last example. Alright, we're going to start with the f function. We're going to substitute in the h function in place of the x for the f function. So f function is 5. And I'm going to leave a lot of space because h is very long. 5x, so 5 parentheses. Then, I lost the color. Alright. And then we're going to substitute in the h function in place of x. So h function is x squared plus gx. Sorry, I don't like how that looks. H squared plus x minus 1. Now, I do have that 5 in the front. It is touching the parentheses or touching the x, which would be multiplication. So we have to distribute. 5 times x squared, 5x squared. 5 times x, 5x. 5 times negative 1, negative 5. And there's no like terms, so this is my answer. We're done after we distribute. Let's look at the next one. So same thing, but now we have h first. So h is going to be what we start with, then we substitute f of x inside h of x. So let's start with the h function. Careful though, the h function has two x's. We have x squared, then we have plus another x minus 1. So I have two parentheses, but the f function goes in both. So 5x and 5x. Okay, so 5x squared is going to be 5x times 5x. Well, 5x times 5x, 5 times 5 is 25. X times x is x squared. Then I can bring down the rest. I have plus 5x and then minus 1. Then nothing can combine, nothing is a like term, so that is our answer. The last thing here is an example with a number, okay? This is actually the same thing, right? So I don't have to redo it because it's already done for us. But if this wasn't done, I would actually have to do this whole part again. And then I would substitute in wherever there's an x, a 2. And then I'm going to show you how to check your answer with a number. So let's say that this was my problem, okay? I would do this part, which we already did. And then we're going to substitute wherever there's a x. We're going to put in a 2. So we have 25x squared plus 5x minus 1. So then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to sub in a 2, 2, and 2. Then we're going to do the math. So it says 2 squared, right? We do exponents, order of operation. So 2 squared is going to be 4. So it's going to be, I'm going to change the color and move this up a little bit because I don't have a lot of space. So 2 squared is 4. 3. And then I still have that 25 in the front. And then I have 5 times 2, so 10, and minus 1. Okay. And then 25 times 4, so that's 4 quarters, that's 100, plus 10 minus 1, and we could just go left to right. 100 plus 10 is 110, minus 1 is 109. Now I'm going to check if I did this correct. Now I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to go into the h function. I'm going to go into the f function because that's the one that was inside, and I'm going to plug in a 2. So let's see. So then I'm just going to check myself. You don't have to do this for your assignment, so or your homework. I'm just going to over here, I'm going to check. And I'm going to start with the f function because that's the one inside, right? If I nest it, this was h, and then f was inside of h, so I'm going to start with the inside always. So f function, I'm going to plug in a 2. So my h function, I'm going to plug in a 2 and find out what that is. I'm going to go up here. The f function is 5x. Okay, so I'm going to go 5x, and then I'm going to sub in a 2. So 5 parentheses 2, and that's going to give me a 10. Then I'm going to get this 10, and I'm going to substitute it into the h function. So that way I end up having h of f of 2. So I'm going to go to the h function, and then I'm going to plug in a 10, because that's what I got. When I put a 2 inside of the f, I got a 10. So I'm going to go back up here and look at what the f function is, h function. H is x squared plus x minus 1, so I'm going to write it here. X squared plus x minus 1. And I'm just going to double check that I copied that right. X squared plus x minus 1. Yes. And then I'm going to sub in, wherever x is, I'm going to sub in a 10, because that's what I got. I'm going to plug in a 2, right? So plus, and sub in a 10. 10, 10. And then do the math. 10 squared is 100. 100 plus 10 would be 110, minus 1 would be 109. So that's how you could check if you did this right. Alright guys, your assignment will be posted in Google Classroom.